Khayum, Councillor for Firth Park and the Chair of this Licensing Subcommittee. And before I ask my other colleagues to introduce themselves, can I just ask Democratic Services to read out the housekeeping arrangements, please, Philippa?
Thank you, Chair. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please take instruction from staff and stewards. The assembly point is at Tudor Square. Please can I request everyone to switch mobile devices to silent mode so as not to disturb the conduct of the meeting. The meeting today will be webcast and the recording will also be available for people to view later through the Council's website. It is also possible that Sheffield Live TV will record and rebroadcast this meeting. While ever the meeting is open to the public, photography, video and sound recording of the proceedings is permitted. However, the Chair has discretion to withdraw or suspend this permission. For example, if the recording is disrupting the conduct of the meeting or is being undertaken in a manner which could capture personal information, or in the event that a member of the public participating in a meeting object to being recorded. Thank you.
Apologies, we're just swapping over with one of our... The substitute has been replaced again.
Straight off the pitch.
Okay, you've arrived before we introduce ourselves, so you're okay, Peter. Yeah, just to remind everyone that the meeting is open to the public. Can I also say that when you speak, please use the mic, but once you finish speaking, you don't need to turn it off again, so you just have to turn on and off as you speak. Okay, so moving on. Any apologies for absence? No apologies. Exclusions of public and press? No. Any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting from Councillor Gilbert.
Apologies, I'm Councillor Peter Gilbert from Ecclesall Ward.
Councillor McGowan from Burley Ward.
Morning, Samantha Bond, Legal Advisor to the Subcommittee.
Morning, Ryan Canister, Licensing Service.
Good morning everybody, Shelley Royston, Licensing Service.
Philippa Burdett, Democratic Services.
Thank you. And can the applicants introduce themselves formally, please?
Joe Spriggs, one of the operators of the new premise.
Jonathan Harold, same.
Scott Martin, the landlord of the development and an investor in the business as well.
Thank you. And the interested parties?
Morning, I'm Peter Jones, I'm a local resident.
Morning, Nathan Stadden, local resident.
Thank you, everyone. I'm now just going to hand over to our solicitor to the committee to just outline the process for this morning. Procedure, please.
Thank you, Chair. Has everyone had a copy of the papers through? Yeah, we've got some hard copies there if you want them, just in case we sort of jump about and start referring to pages, so we can just get those handed out if you need them. Yeah, that'd be good, yeah. I always prefer to have a paper copy, but I'm trying to wing it at the minute. It's not the same, no, I completely agree. Okay, lovely. So the procedure's right at the back of the pack on page 50. It looks a lot worse than it is, but I'll just run through it so we all know where we're at. So the licensing officer, who's Shelley this morning, will introduce the report. If there are any questions concerning the report, they can be raised then. So if there's anything missing, inaccurate, or if anything's changed since the report's been written, just so we can get the record amended and updated. There are no representatives for responsible authorities today. I believe conditions have already been agreed, and so they've withdrawn their representation. Same for Councillor Johnson, one of the interested parties. I believe he's liaised with the applicants, and as a result has withdrawn his representation. So what we'll do is we'll just head to the local residents first off, just to detail your representation, so to just expand on what's been written in the report already and add anything onto that that you think might be relevant for members in making the decision today. Members can ask you questions, and with the leave of the chair, the applicant can also ask you questions as well. Once we've done with that, the applicant can then detail the application as set out in the report, provide any clarification on the application, and respond to the representations made, both written in the report and orally at the hearing here today. Again, members can ask you questions, and with the leave of the chair, the residents can ask you questions as well. You will then be given the opportunity to sum up the application. We'll then take the options as detailed in the report from the licensing officer, and members will go into private session to take legal advice and consider the application. So you're more than welcome to wait around just while we do that, and then we'll invite you back in and let you know what the decision is. The decision of the licensing committee will be given in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 and regulations made thereunder. Any time during the hearing, members can request legal advice, so we can do that in open session as we are now, or in close, where we just ask you guys just to nip next door. We'll have a discussion and we'll then invite you back in and let you know what's been discussed. And as the chair's already said, the hearing is public and live webcast this morning, unless at any point we determine that the recording should be paused. That should be hopefully more straightforward than it sounds. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so can I now then ask the licensing officer to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this morning's meeting is to consider an application for the grant of a premises licence made under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 in relation to Units 5 and 6, Merchants Court, 43 Mulberry Street, Sheffield. The application was made by Epworth Meadows Limited and was received by the licensing service on the 2nd of June. Proposed plans are attached to Appendix A to the report. The application is for the premise to run a ground floor bar and a restaurant with an attached function and event space, which includes covered external kiosk units and customer seating. The reason for the referral this morning is that the application has had unresolved representations from the following interested parties, and these are attached at Appendix B to the report. As Sam's already said, Councillor Johnson has withdrawn his objection, and there are 7 local residents who've placed objections to the application. During the consultation period, the applicant has agreed conditions with the Environmental Protection Service and the Health Protection Service, including an updated plan, and these are attached to the report at Appendix C. The applicant and the interested parties referred to in paragraph 3.1 have all been invited to attend the hearing, and copies of the front page of the notices are attached to the report at Appendix D. Members are minded to consider the policies that are listed in the report, the licensing policy and the revised guidance under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. With your permission, Chair, I'll not go through sections 5, 6, 7 and 8 of the report because they are standard, and I'll jump straight to the recommendations in Section 9, and that members carefully consider the representations made and take such steps as the subcommittee consider appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any question on that report, anyone? Okay. Thank you. So there's no responsible authority present, so we go straight to the interested parties. If you want to make your representation, then please.
Hi there. So I'm PD Jones, who's on page 29, I believe it was, when I was looking a moment ago. May have got, page 33. So I don't have an objection in principle to business opening in Merchants Court. I know it needs filling up. It's a nice space, if they've put some investment in, and it would add, having something in there would add something to the area. My major concern is with regard to the audio levels that we heard within the block. So to give a little bit of context, I think the best way to describe it is looking at the premises licence plan on page 36. If you look to the far left of there, it says lobby doors providing 1 metre clear escape width. Now, that solid black line down there, that's basically a ground floor corridor that leads all the way down inside the apartment block. Now, my front door is near enough exactly where it says where that lobby doors providing is. It's a very small amount of space in between. It's probably only a little over 1 metre in width. And since existing businesses, so pad 12, most noticeably been in the courtyard, you can hear people in there, and that's fine when it's just normal people chatting away, having a good time, etc., and the space is being utilised. I've no qualms with that. But once amplified sound is in that area, it becomes very, very noticeable. So I've got, I made a short video clip of this at the time, actually. Weekend before last, I was just in my lounge, minding my own business. I could hear music coming from the courtyard. And I went through and there was simply a guy there with an acoustic guitar playing out loud. And as soon as you left you could hear it in my apartment anyway, as soon as you went into the corridor, it was very, very loud. And I can show video evidence of this. And that's with the existing setup, which is basically Unit 2 that's being filled. There's also someone in which I presume is Unit 1, but he very much keeps himself to himself. It's a very small mead business. So I also want to see Units 5 and 6 utilised. There's no benefit to having empty units within the area. However, after reading through this application, and I mean, these seem like perfectly nice guys. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to do anything deliberately malicious, but I think unwittingly, because of the nature of how the building is structured, bear in mind this is all one single unit, there may be a strong chance of noise pollution unless we can really prevent that happening. So I don't have a problem with the plans as such. If they want to run a restaurant slash bar that doesn't have amplified sound, no problem with that. Or if there is planning to be some kind of sound, then we need to have some kind of measurement levels in there so that we know what we're dealing with in terms of decibels and maybe an actual impact assessment on what it's going to be like in the apartments before anything's signed off, so that we can get a test as such in place. And that's my major objection to this.
Okay, thank you. Over to the next one.
I'm kind of going off what you're saying. I want the space to be used. I've got to know the Pad 12 people, and I know that they want people in, and as a resident, I'm very open to having new places. I'll probably spend a lot of time there when it's open. But I think, to me, what is concerning is the timing as well. An 11:30 license for a place that is directly on apartments seems just far too late. In a perfect world, it would be 11 o'clock finished, and then 10 o'clock everyone inside. So stop using that courtyard at around 10 o'clock due to, weekdays and people working and people just trying to live their lives inside their apartments. There is an issue with because where is it? Right at the end there near the exit, at the far end. That's a huge window, and that window is 2 stories. So the windows are designed in a way that are quite good at preventing sound, but they do let sound in. They're not designed to prevent every single noise coming in. So people in that courtyard, you can hear them. And it's 2 stories of just big windows. And that is directly outside my apartment door. And it's directly, you can see your apartment door through it. So essentially through the glass, you can see his door. And then it's an event space right outside that. So I'm not opposed to a bar or restaurant being there. I just think, very cautious about the sound levels and, people out there at late hours. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Just to add a couple of things on there. Thanks for that. Add a lot of context I've forgotten. Where this Unit 5 event space is that far wall at the end, like I mentioned, that's a corridor. I'm not sure event space is obviously quite a loose term. Presumably, if that's where you might be showing football and so on, which is fine as such. But I think that unless the audio levels are very closely monitored in that mood, the seepage that will come through that wall is essentially unavoidable, unless there's going to be some very extreme soundproofing. To actually give a little bit more context to this corridor and what it's like I said, I do have that video clip. It's about 10 seconds long. If anyone wants to see it, just help build a little bit of context and real-life picture around it.
Okay, thanks for that. I think if we need to, we'll come back to you about the video. You know, both of you have just put your case across quite well, so I think we just carry on for the time being. I will open to any questions that my colleagues may have now. So if there's any questions, Councillor McGowan?
Just a couple. I'm not familiar with the area, but are there any other bars or anything in the local vicinity? And do you have noise from them? Do you hear that at the moment?
So we have pad 12, which is currently in unit 2, and we had some teething problems with them, but they're being more than friendly and understanding. And since, you know, I've chatted with them that there hasn't been any issues since, but that kind of raises the potential of it for newcomers.
What is that? What do they do? Is it a restaurant? Is it a bar? What is the noise? What was the noise coming from? And have they got it to a level that's suitable?
So it's a wine and gin bar. They do private events at times. It was noise from people at the event and music in the courtyard, but since, you know, having conversations, they have got it down to a reasonable level, which I think I believe is quite a normal process, but they got it under control and haven't had any issues since then.
Do you know what that level is? I'm just wondering if environmental services have been involved, haven't they, and they've agreed a noise level from what I can read, and I just wondered if it's the same level as what they're playing at. You know what I'm trying to say is, if environmental services have said a noise minimum and it is the same as this bar, then that should, in effect, resolve it if it's already been resolved with this other premise.
So I believe, I'm not sure what the level is, but the main concern is that the Unit 2 doesn't have an adjoining wall with our properties. So I think it would need to be, you know, reassessed and be probably something different, lower than them, because it is quite a distance away.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Gilbert?
Yeah, so I understand you had conversations together, and you've raised the things you'd like the business owners to mitigate against. Are you happy to work with the business to, get those things put in? Do you feel confidence that they will work with you on that?
Yeah, from our initial meeting this morning, they seem amicable guys that are open to things. Yeah, so if we can get the sound levels under control, I've no objection to their overall plan for the business as a whole, with that exception. And of course, like maybe a bit of curtailing of the opening hours. But yeah, if we can come to a resolution on the sound, then absolutely.
I think for me, it's I would like. Yes, I've met with Joe, and it's been a really good meeting, and I'm really excited for what they're doing. I think as far as the licensing goes, I would like something in place officially with timing wise, just to prevent any. There's still Unit 3 there, and I can say that I think I'll be agreeing with Joe, and we'll work together really well. but then I have concerns about how then Unit 3 will move in, and it's just kind of, I want to keep it at a level where all the businesses that might move in the future also have a set, you know, license to stick by.
Yeah, you want to come back in, Karen?
Yeah, it's not on noise actually, it's just reading one of the other comments from another resident that's saying about perception of antisocial behaviour, and I just didn't, you've not mentioned that at all, and I just wondered, is it just a perception, and has there been any issues?
There's been a previous issue with an event in a different unit, and they've taken things into hand to try and prevent that happening again. I do believe that that was a one-off event. I don't think there's been any other antisocial behaviour outside or inside that courtyard that you know about?
Not that I've come across. So when that event happened, I heard about it from my neighbours, but I wasn't in that day personally, so I didn't experience it firsthand. It doesn't seem like the plans are there to attract a kind of crowd that would necessarily be antisocial. Now, obviously, as soon as you get alcohol involved in people, even the most civilised people can sometimes go a little bit off the rails. I think, but that's the nature of any kind of entertainment. I'm not having any objections on that front. I presume that'd be the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, Councillor Gilbert?
So as residents, in your ideal world, what would be the licensing hours?
I think restaurant finished around 11 and people outside, the use of the courtyard, specifically for outside this unit, that are really close to residents, inside at around 10 o'clock, which I believe mirrors a lot of the local bars that are in residential areas. That's a perfect world.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would broadly agree with that. I think once you start going beyond 11 p.m, particularly during the weekday, that could just be quite disruptive. It's like, inside by 10, closing at 11. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, anything from you, Sam?
It might form into a question, but just initially, I think the applicants have agreed with the Environmental Protection Service that the use of the outside area will cease at 2200 hours on all days. Customers encouraged to move inside, which doesn't really make sense. Oh, customers to move within the premises from 10:30, so that the outside area is not in use by customers after 11. Does that make sense to you? So from 10:30, so you can't use the outside area past 10, but you've got to start moving inside from 10:30. It just doesn't. Do you know what your understanding of that was? I'm just trying to build a bit of a balance here.
So basically no one sat outside drinking?
After 10 or after 10:30? Is it?
After 10.
10:30, okay. Then everything packed away by 11.
Yeah, we're planning on doing breakfast and we're planning on doing everything, so we don't want to be there too late.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, that's fair enough. I think as well, so there's going to be no amplified sound played through the external courtyard area. And as well, before any licensable activities commence, you've got to do a sound attenuation scheme, so levels to be agreed with basically our noise monitoring service. So hopefully that will, well, what usually happens is that's set at the level so as not to cause an official nuisance to you. Whether it impacts on you might take a little bit of adjustment with the levels, but would that be something that sort of alleviates your concerns initially?
I'd like to just know a bit more about how that sound attenuation methodology works. So what does it actually entail?
That's a really good question. I'm not an expert by any means, but I know that they get, well, it says per the condition, a qualified acoustic professional. So it's somebody who actually knows about sound decibel levels. And essentially, where you've got a new premises moving into what is a residential area, the onus is on them to ensure that they completely noise-proof so that as not to cause a nuisance to you. Similarly, if somebody was building a residential block next to an established bar, it'd be on the developer of the residential premises to sort of block that sound out. So the legislation's a lot more robust in recent years to ensure that vice versa people aren't disrupted. And essentially with you guys moving in, it's for you to do that. So I think they'll be working with EPS to set the sound decibel levels. I have no idea what number that is because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, which I appreciate isn't helpful. But they will be working with actual experts on it to ensure that any disruption to you. But what I would say is to probably just keep those lines of communication open because things tend to just get lost along the way.
It sounds good in theory, but of course, as we all know, even experts can make mistakes from time to time. Let's say hypothetically the expert says, oh, this should all be fine, it all works out. But then in reality, it doesn't. What happens then?
So in the first instance, I'd sort of advise making contact with the premises, just having a chat with them, see if that resolves it, as with previous premises where you've sort of flagged it and been like, you know, far too loud, causing a massive issue. If it continues, you can speak to our Environmental Protection Service. If it escalates, they can get involved, they'll speak to the premises. And if it's really significant, if you guys just don't care at all, if it carries on being a massive problem, you're like, you know what, we're going to play music all the time, it's going to be super loud and disrupt everybody, it can come back before this committee. So members can look at it as part of a review, and ultimately we could either add conditions, we could curtail hours, or the licence could be removed entirely if it's of such a level and there's been not that engagement. But in the first instance, I would sort of encourage that chat. It seems like you've got quite an open line of communication already, so hopefully if there are any teething problems, they can be fixed by you guys, but if not, we get the experts in and they take it from there. And then worst case, you have to come back here.
Sorry, I'd like to just kind of go through this wording again. So service of food or drink to or within the outside area should cease at 10, and the customer is encouraged to move in within the premises from 10:30. Now, I work in bars and restaurants, and when you go and up to someone, say at 10:30, you say, "Could you move inside, please?" You know, that could be, you know, you can't. Giving them ample time to move. It could be that people are still out there up until 11:15 within this wording. That's where I personally don't want people really in the courtyard that late. So if it was, you know, stop service outside at 9:45 and encourage people to come in at around 10 or 10:15, that sort of time frame for them to be actually inside and comfortable, or have time to pack up and leave, whatever they decide to do. But something more in that region, I think, would feel more respectful to the community that live.
To have ceased, like everyone inside by 10:30, is that what you're aiming for, or 10?
By 10, I would like everybody.
Almost like a 15-minute sort of drinking up, 9:45 inside by 10. I don't know what you guys.
That works for us. That works for us.
Okay, can we just, have you finished with your questions, Sam? I mean, there are more questions on the side to this time, but anyway. Okay, the applicants, you've obviously heard the representations from the interested parties, and we've had questions and answers. Before I ask you to obviously, go and put forward your details of your application, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask any questions of the interested parties, if you have any. You don't have to, but if you've got any questions or any cross-examination you want to do of the across the interested parties, then, you know, you do have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pre-existing relationship with Nathan, Mr. Stadden, and we're experienced in running bars. We want to work with the residents. Ideally, we'd like them to come in and enjoy the place. So we do not want to be annoying anybody at all. This is a community. I run a community association in Kelham Island with all of the other bars, and it's very much community focused. This is about working with the residents for me, not against them. I do not want to be annoying anybody. So anything you need, you've got my number. We can work together on it. More than happy to do noise levels privately and with a professional. Happy with them licence timings. I'm not really. This is part for questions actually. I'm just making statements of it. So yeah, I haven't really got any questions as such. I'm happy with everything that they've said, and I'm happy to work with them on any front.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I think so. We move into the next bit, then, which is obviously your opportunity to detail your application. Anything else you want to add to your application? Which is, you more or less started doing that.
So yeah, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing breakfast, and me and Johnny are going to be there all the time. We do not want to be there until late. We're not opening a late bar. It's going to be hopefully afternoon trade. Yeah, event-wise, it's not going to be a music venue. Film club on maybe a Thursday night. Co-working space, morning, afternoon. Business meetings. Some wine tastings. Whiskey tastings. Happy with those. I'm happy with timings for outside. Completely understand. Yeah, I know from running bars that you tell someone to go inside, it takes them 15 minutes at least. So, yeah, really happy to work with you and make it work for you. Anything else for me to add? Do you have anything?
Do you have any objections for opening hours, as in the morning?
I don't think. What time will we be open for breakfast?
8.
Could you do 7:30? No, I have no issues with opening times.
I think in the document it's 8 AM. Is that correct?
Just knock on the window.
Is there any way of getting that earlier in case? I mean, we're taking this on with the idea of being malleable. So we're going to start opening Wednesdays to Sunday. But if it does do well, we want it to open Mondays and Tuesdays as well. And we do want to focus on coffee in the morning. So would it be a good idea for us to have a bit of an earlier license so we can, if coffee trade does do well in the future, we can open earlier?
Yeah, you can amend the licence at any time. So for that, given it wouldn't be a licensable activity, it'd just be a minor variation. So just put the application into the licensing service. If you were going to open past 11, that would be a different matter. You'd probably have to come back. But yeah, earlier I can't, unless you sort of wanted to start doing music or something before 8, because between 8 AM and 11 PM, you're all right. But before that, it probably wouldn't fall under a minor variation. Sort of background music's fine, but if you wanted to start doing plays, amplified music or cinema before 8 AM, it'd be a big variation as opposed to just the minor, small, straightforward one. Unless I've got that completely wrong. If I got it wrong.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine by us.
Okay, is that?
Just a quick question. So any kind of agreements now due to licensing times? Will they go on a document, or is it, yeah? So anything we agree on will be in there. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, it will be as formal condition of the license. That's going to be, if it's granted, it will be a condition of that. Okay, so again, going now open to questions. Firstly, my member colleagues, Councillor Gilbert.
Yeah, so it sounds really exciting. It's great to see that you're working with your community, and because that's going to be the, you know, hopefully the core of the success of the business. Would you be happy essentially bringing back, as we talked about the licensing in the evening, sort of essentially back an hour almost, so that, yeah, nobody coming in. I think we've agreed that nobody outside after 10. And then inside the building, in terms of the played recorded music, do you think you'd be okay with that stopping a bit earlier than 11?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say, you know, if you could talk together about that, because even with experts working on the soundproofing and stuff, sound will escape. And with it being a mixed residential area, if we can keep the noise down in the area, it makes it so much nicer for everybody. And I like to think that your business would still be, you know, successful. The people would already be in, let's say, at 10 o'clock anyway. So turning off the music maybe at 10:30 or 10 probably wouldn't affect your sales, but could make the ambience of the whole area calmer.
Yeah, we'd be happy to stop music at 10:30 inside. Is that right with everyone? It's not going to be loud music anyway. Yeah. But
from what you've described, it's cafe style music.
yes,
So yeah.
even like just in terms of general trade, we won't be having events on every single night in that in the event space, and even if we do, it's not going to be punk music. So
yeah, my observation when it comes to the noise, it's a little bit less about the time, whether it's 10 or half 10. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference. I think most people are broadly still up in the block at that time. But, well, yeah, not always. It's more about the overall levels of it. It's like the walls within the block are quite thin anyway. So, for example, my neighbour 2 doors down in number 1, he can occasionally hear my little my little speaker, for example. Yeah. So it's more about the levels than the timing to me. My main concern still comes back to the volume level and the soundproofing. That's my really big one. But in terms of the actual concept of the business outside of that, it sounds good. It's the kind of place I will probably go to on a regular basis. It's just, it's the noise pollution that concerns me. That's all.
Okay, any more questions, Councillor Gilbert? No? Councillor McGowan?
It's not a question, it's a comment, just to say I've sat on here for 10 years now and I've never seen a relationship or an establishment that is so willing to work with its residents, and it's really refreshing. So thank you to both of you, and I'm hoping it's going to be really successful.
We want their money, so we want them to spend a lot of money in our bar, so we're willing to comply.
no, but thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. Sam?
Thank you. Obviously, you've applied for every day of the week for all the sort of events, so play, cinema, sporting, live music, and that. Is that just to give you flexibility, so as and when the events are held, so it won't be, there's going to be all of those every day, potentially up until 11 p.m. So I think that's that's how the application sort of might be interpreted by residents, and I think is potentially how it has been interpreted by some. But it's just to clarify, it's that to give you that flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. And again, because I can't just stick to questions, given that you've applied between 8 AM and 11 PM, all your entertainment activities are, in a sense, deregulated between those times while you're serving the alcohol. So you can open up until that point and without conditions or without restrictions on it from members or other authorities, unless it causes a problem further down the line. But if you want to finish those a little bit earlier, that's your choice. But at the minute, given that you've applied up until 11 PM and it's all deregulated, there's not a great deal of wiggle room in terms of us for doing that. But if you want to finish earlier and decide that with residents, that's fine. We're a little bit restricted in terms of how we would condition that, so it would just be between you guys to sort that out. It's very boring.
Yeah, could you just elaborate what do you mean by deregulated?
Deregulated in the sense that any conditions imposed on the licence, so if it was music had to be at X level, technically that's not enforceable between 8 AM and 11 PM. Because it was the Live Music Act, it was brought in 2012 in order to give licensed premises a lot more flexibility and in order to help the licensed trade be successful. Essentially, given the problems that the licensed trade is still facing at the moment, they're still kept in force. So you wouldn't necessarily need to do a whole lot in order to comply with that. You could just have that as given that you're selling alcohol on the premises. So where you serve alcohol, the audience is under 500 and it's between 8 AM and 11 PM. It's not classed as licensable activity. So your plays, your sporting, your live music, it's just, it can continue essentially just under the terms of the alcohol licence. But if there are problems, then we can take that back to being regulated as a committee. But I think given what you've said, you're going to work with EPS, you're going to work with the residents, I don't envisage it being an issue. But it's just a point I have to make, and I make it all the time and it's really boring and I'm sorry. And it's super technical as well, but it's in order to essentially help your business more.
I don't find it boring, but yeah. If you could, I mean after this I'm sure you will put us in touch with the EPS people. Yeah, you look concerned.
Me?
No, Nathan. Confused.
So a previous discussion we were talking about changing the licensing times. Is that still the case? Or?
In terms, so they've applied for 8 AM to 11 PM or 11:30 closing. If we think there's a reason to reduce that, or if members think there's a reason to reduce that, then they can, based on what they've heard today. In terms of the use of the outside area, that's separate. We can curtail the hours on that. But yeah, it's just inside. So things that don't need a licence, where there's an alcohol licence already in place, would be anything that makes a lot of noise, essentially, which is rubbish for local residents. But I don't think in this instance it's hopefully going to cause you an issue.
Okay. Right, thank you. Okay, well, the next set was for yourselves to ask any question. I think we've had a bit of a sort of discussion about that. I don't think you have any more questions of the applicants. And then again, finally, I think we've had the sort of general discussion, but if you want to say anything else to sum up your representations, you can do so. If not, I'll ask the applicants to do the same.
Okay, yeah, well, thank you for everyone's time this morning. Yeah, to summarise, their core business sounds good. They seem nice people. I've got no qualms on any of that front. My issue comes down almost entirely down to the noise pollution levels, and I think that until it's actually tested out in the apartment block next door, we can't really judge how successful that's going to be when it comes to curtailing it. I think it might be more of a challenge to muffle that sound down to a low level than it might initially seem. I've lived in that apartment block since 2012 and know it really well. And just knowing the architecture of it and its design, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, but I do think it could be difficult. I'm happy to work with the guys on it, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily quite as simple as it might sound on face value. But to summarise, if we can providing that the noise pollution is kept to a minimum, I don't object to anything else that they're proposing.
Okay, thank you. Same for the applicants. Anything else you want to say to summarise your application?
Not really. Satisfied.
Okay, thank you very much everyone for your inputs. Now I'm going to go over to the licensing officer to let us know what the options we've got available to us this morning.
Thank you. The options open to the committee this morning are 1, to grant the premise licence in the terms requested, 2, grant the premise licence with conditions, or 3, to reject whole or part of the application.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, so we're now going to a private session. We'll have a discussion, deliberate and come to a decision hopefully pretty soon. If you want to wait outside, and the licensing officer will call you back once we make a decision. Thank you. Okay, thanks again everyone for coming this morning. As you can see, we didn't take long to come to a decision. We have deliberated as we needed to, and we have come to a decision. Just to say that, as my colleague already said, it's nice to see that the applicants and the interested parties working quite amicably together, and to see that kind of relationship in existence and possibly developing further. I think it's really good both for the applicant and the interested parties, and we think you'll work out a way where everyone's satisfied and the business does hopefully do well. So it's pleasing to see that. Just to make that comment. So we, having discussed, we are happy to grant the license as applied for, with the addition that obviously, as we discussed and agreed earlier on, in terms of condition 2, that the people in the outside court should be in by 10 p.m. rather than 10:30. Whether you start telling them at 10:45 or 10:30 or whatever, they need to be in by 10 p.m. And that's the only sort of additional condition, variation of the condition that we bring on. Other than that, we're happy to grant the license. Sam.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the benefit of you guys and anyone that may be watching that's not attended today, everybody has the right of appeal against this decision. So that's within 21 days to the Magistrates' Court. So following the hearing, you'll receive a notice outlining a bit of a summary of everything that was discussed today and confirming the final decision. So it's just that condition 2 that you'd agreed with the Environmental Protection Service. Members have just reworded it because it was really confusing. So just essentially, however you want to manage it, we're not forced as long as everybody's inside and there's no use of the courtyard after 10 p.m. Obviously, if people nip in to smoke, but just in terms of people eating, drinking, music and whatnot, everything to cease and be inside at 10 p.m. So that should be everything. I really appreciate you all coming and getting on so well today. If there's anything else you want to clarify afterwards, I'll be around if you want to chat or anything. But thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again. Thank you.